So it's been a little bit since I did a writing update, but I feel like I actually have something to update about that's really exciting. So my accountability partner, who just happens to be my best friend, we decided to go on a quote unquote writer's retreat, which for us basically was booking a hotel room that looked like it had enough space for both of us to like set up to write for a night or two. We went away for 2 nights. So it ended up being about, if you counted like on the front end and the back end, about 2 full days worth of writing. And we set the goal for ourselves unofficially in that amount of time to do 5 hours of writing. That being said, we talked about it and I think we did a lot more than that. So just having like, when there's a question as to like, okay, well, what do we do now? The answer was we sit down and we write. And so when we needed a break, we tried to do things that like kept us in the room. So we brought games and she had her Switch with her. So we both loved the game Wingspan. So when we needed a break and we just needed to like rest our brains for a little bit, we literally just passed a Switch controller back and forth and played Wingspan for an hour and then went back to writing. And it was really cool because she was working on mind mapping. And so they literally had a little like offshoot office in the room. So she was able to put up mind maps of what she was working on and just take up that whole space where she didn't have pets bothering her as my cat comes in screen. Um, and so while she was doing that, I was able to sit and just kind of do the things that I want to spend time doing. Like my process tends to go down a lot of rabbit holes. Like I like to explore that. It tricks my mind isn't the right phrase, but it allows my mind to wander. And I think I'm better at putting ideas together if I can do that. But when you're at home, there's chores, there's kids, there's other people around that are going to pull your brain away from that sort of thing. And honestly, I think that's the thing I've struggled with the most since having kids is that, I used to be able to just spend whole days, whole afternoons just letting my mind wander and doing whatever came to mind. It was wonderful. That being said, obviously I wouldn't trade that for anything, but it is something that is maybe a bit of a struggle now. And so being away for those 2 days allowed my mind to wander and allowed me to put that together. And so I wanted to follow Dan Harmon's Story Circle. I think I've mentioned this in my vlogs before. So what I was able to do is sit down and decided, okay, so I've got two main characters and I need to have a story circle for each one of them. I had already decided that previously. And so what I really did was I took the ideas that I already had and I fed them into the story circle outline, I guess you would call it. So I know I've talked about using like ChatGPT, or in this case I used Bard. It seemed to be more helpful on that given day. That's Google's ChatGPT interface. But it honestly seems like it's improved significantly since I tried using it the last time. So maybe for more creative ventures, I'll take a look at that more moving forward. Now, I always have the hesitation when I do stuff like this because then I'm like, okay, but now they have all of my creativity, all of my ideas have been fed into this. And so now it's a part of that algorithm to be used with other pieces of people's, whatever. If somebody decides they want to write a book, but they don't want to do it themselves, my work does go in there now. So I'm going back and forth. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but I make sure to use it as a tool. And so in this case, I said, hey, use Dan Harmon's Story Circle. Here's what I've got so far. Help me map this onto the Story Circle. And what it helped me do was realize that I already had a majority of the Story Circle in place. I just was front loading too much of it. I thought that I had the like the rising action. I didn't realize that I had all the rising action through the resolution. I just needed to figure out, how do I get the conflict somewhere in the climax to tie together with the resolution. And so I was able to spend a lot of time piecing that stuff together and realizing I already had all of these ideas. I just didn't see that they fit together as one cohesive story. I felt like I still had a ton more stuff that I needed to put together. And so it was honestly, I felt like I didn't do very much, but then I look at the number of words I've got. I've hit the 13,000, maybe 15,000 word mark at this point. And so I realized that my story's there. I know what I'm doing. So it's a matter of just sitting down and pounding it out. And like, this could be a thing. I've never had a story be so cohesive before. I think I've talked about I've done NaNoWriMo in the past and I had the 50,000 words, but I had absolutely no idea how the story got from point A to, end point. Where now I know how everything fits together. I just have to put the words there. And so it's nice because that's the opposite of the problem that I typically have. So I feel like this is actually achievable for me. So that was really nice. And it just felt like a grown up sleepover. We had a great time. We, had way too many snacks and brought Mario Party and got Shamrock Shakes delivered with Chinese food for lunch one day because why not? And it was like our incentive. My buddy called it our good girl gifts. So we sat down and we wrote so much that we got a Shamrock Shake for a good girl gift. So if you're looking for a way to maybe jumpstart things, I think that might be a good way to do it. Just set yourself apart. Maybe you can't get away for 2 full nights, but maybe you leave and go sit at Starbucks for a while or go sit at the library instead of your own house because that honestly did a ton for me. So I'm really excited to keep going with it and hopefully I'll have more substantial updates as we go. So, toodaloo, Nancy Drew.